So hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video I wanted to talk about the different subgenres of realism style tattoos. So if that's something you're interested in, then keep watching. So in my last video I covered different types of traditional tattoos, American, Japanese, and Neo. And in this video I wanted to talk about the ways that realism tattoos can differ. So to start off, we're going to talk about black and gray realism. And I feel like just saying that, it feels kind of self-explanatory. It is realism and it's done in black and gray. This style usually doesn't have very many outlines, if any. It'll only be the shadows and the tones. This style is very common when it comes to portrait work. If you're asking for a portrait, it's most likely going to be done by a black and gray realism artist. This is a style that I feel like looks very good when it is all one cohesive piece, or when it's all one limb, when it's a full sleeve, a full leg sleeve, that sort of thing. When you want to look for a good black and gray realism artist, I would suggest looking at their healed work. There are some artists that go really dark with their work or go really light with their work, but seeing the healed photos is going to give you a realistic expectation of what their tattoo is going to look like once it's on you. The way that black and gray realism artists work usually, they work in subject matter that is usually memorial tattoos, portraitures, religious tattoos when it comes to this. When you're looking for artists that specialize in this style, be wary that it might be a couple sessions. A lot of these artists that specialize in this style only do this style. And the way that they work is usually a little bit different than other tattoo artists. Other tattoos, what you usually would do is you would outline it, you would shade it, and then you would color it. But the way that realism works is that they start from the bottom like a printer and work their way up. Some artists will need multiple sessions to finish a piece, especially if it's a larger or more detailed piece. So keep that in mind when you're looking for an artist. It might be a little bit different based on how that artist works. So color realism is much like black and gray realism, but instead of black and gray, it's in color. It's just like black and gray realism, and I've seen color artists go about it in the same way as black and gray realism, where they do kind of the printer from the bottom all the way up. And usually the subject matters for these are more floral or more animal themed instead of being portraits or religious themed. You don't really see a whole lot of portraits in this, but sometimes there are. They even did a challenge on Ink Master. This style is not as common as black and gray realism, but it is starting to gain more popularity. So one notable artist that I can think of off the top of my head is Kelsey Colors. She's based out of Oklahoma, and she is amazing. She does these incredibly vibrant, strong pieces that are usually entire sleeves. And that's what she specializes in, and I think she's doing a great job at it. This is also a style that you want to look at the healed work so that you can get a realistic expectation of what your tattoo is going to look like. The fresh work, of course, is going to look amazing. One thing to consider when getting this style of tattoo is, like, just like black and gray realism, there are probably no outlines. If there are outlines, they're very, very small, very thin. So you want to make sure that you take care of the tattoo afterwards. The biggest enemy of color tattoos is UV light. So if you're getting a big, large, beautiful color tattoo, I would suggest putting it somewhere that doesn't see as much sunlight, so maybe like your thigh or your shoulder. Well, maybe not your shoulder. Somewhere underneath close where it doesn't see a whole lot of sunlight. If you put something on your forearm, it's going to age faster than something that would be, like, say, on your side. But that's also up to you. You can always get tattoos touched up over time, so it's not always a big deal. The next type of tattoo that we're going to talk about is horror realism. I believe this has like 2 subgenres in my opinion, because you can have horror realism, which is like The subject matter can range from movie characters to scenes or just gory looking things. And then it can also be like body horror, where it looks like you have lava under your skin, or your alien flesh is tearing out from the inside, things like that. Usually horror tattoos are horror themed, like horror movie themed. So it'll have scenes or depictions from horror movies or inspired by horror movies. The serial killer stuff, though, there have been a lot of people that have gone under fire, a lot of tattoo artists that have gone under fire for tattooing serial killers on people. Horror realism has sort of received a little bit of a backlash in recent times because of the Dahmer documentary or Dahmer docudrama that came out on Netflix. Ever since then, it seems like the true crime community has kind of been under fire for their romanticization of serial killers. So just a thing to keep in mind, if you are thinking about getting that sort of tattoo, then maybe do a little bit of research, because it might not be very favorable to some of the victims' families and that sort of thing. So, just try to show some empathy when you're designing a horror tattoo. The body horror tattoos are very interesting in my opinion, because I don't like them personally. I would probably never get one, but I think it's very interesting that somebody wants to change their appearance to look like they're a whole different species. I think that's really interesting, and a lot of people that have gotten these sort of tattoos have sort of changed the rules when it comes to getting tattoos. There are body horror enthusiasts such as, I don't know his name, this guy, who's done some really interesting things in terms of body modification, sort of breaking the boundaries. I'm also going to lump in eyeball tattoos into body horror, because icky. There have been people that have gone blind, but there are also people that are totally fine. This is a very, very much a preference sort of tattoo. There was a body horror tattoo enthusiast that was able to show that you can successfully tattoo the bottom of your tongue, but not the top. So that is very interesting. So yeah, body horror realism. The last realism style of tattoo that we're going to talk about is microrealism. This tattoo style has been extremely controversial ever since it came out, probably around 5 to 7 years ago. This is a style of tattoo that is fairly new, especially in the grand scheme of things. And there's a reason that it's so new, and there's a reason that it's so popular. There's a classic saying, bold will hold, when it comes to tattoos, meaning that you have to have strong lines, strong saturation, strong shadows, and it's going to look like a tattoo 30 years down the line. A lot of tattoo artists that have this bold will hold mentality think that microrealism tattoos are a waste of time and a waste of money. And I don't quite agree with that. I kind of have like the newer generation mentality when it comes to these sorts of tattoos, because I'm here for a good time, not for a long time. One of the biggest things that makes sure that a microrealism tattoo will hold up over time is a good amount of contrast. You have to have the lights versus the darks in all sorts of areas of the small tattoo so that it's going to keep itself together as it ages. That doesn't mean that it's not going to turn into a blob in 10 years, but that also doesn't mean that you can't get it touched up. So in the United States and Europe, microrealism tattoos have sort of become a point of contention, and I think that's because we've gotten really spoiled with the variety of tattoos that we can get. These sort of tattoos, these microrealism tattoos, are very popular in Asia, where tattooing only stopped being illegal a few decades ago. So in Asian countries where tattooing is either illegal or extremely taboo, people that want something beautiful on them or to get a tattoo can get something that's really small, very beautiful, and easy to hide so that they're not shunned by their society. People can still appreciate art and get tattoos that mean a lot to them, but they can cover up with a band-aid or, a bracelet. So I think that in America and in Europe, where everybody gets tattooed, everybody has tattoos, like I think more than 40% of people at this point have tattoos in the Western culture. We don't really care about people are seeing our tattoos. Sometimes we want people to see our tattoos. Sometimes our tattoos are for the public to know how cool we are and not for us. And in Asian countries, that's not the case. There's also been a lot of controversy over micro tattoos because of certain tattoo studios that cater to celebrities in New York. I'm not going to name any names, but it rhymes with gang gang. They tattoo celebrities, and the celebrities do the promotion for them, and then they tattoo people that aren't celebrities for an extremely large amount of money, and these people get screwed over. I feel like the reason that celebrities get micro tattoos is because they have to be able to hide them easily, because they have a very wide range of characters that they have to play or personas that they have to take on. And so, especially when it comes to actors or musicians, if they're getting micro tattoos, they're getting tattoos for themselves, but they have to be able to cover it up easily for others. Another reason I feel like celebrities can get micro tattoos while the common folk can't is because celebrities can pay for tattoo removal once it starts not looking great. Once the tattoo stops looking perfect and pristine, celebrities can just get it lasered off. If it's a micro tattoo, that's going to be a lot easier than if it's Ben Affleck's Phoenix back piece. If it's a micro tattoo that's already sort of faded, then it's going to also be a lot easier to cover up with something else or get it lasered off. I feel like in Asian countries where a lot more micro tattoos are done on a larger scale for many more people, they have sort of a better idea of what works for a micro tattoo and what doesn't. And I'm a huge fan of them. I think they're really cool. I think it's cool that you can have something that's small and beautiful on you and that you can change it over time if you want. And yeah, that's my opinion as a tattoo apprentice. I don't hate micro tattoos like most tattoo artists do. I do think, though, that tattoo artists should inform their clients and give them realistic expectations. That's the catchphrase of this episode, realistic expectations. All tattoos age over time. All tattoos get fuzzy, get blurry, get blobby. Just because it's not going to look good in 60 years doesn't mean that you're not going to appreciate it while it does. All realism tattoos feel like they're a very specialty sort of thing. If you want to get something good that's going to stay, go to somebody that specializes in this sort of thing. If you like this video, feel free to check out my other one about traditional tattoos, and we'll see you next time.